If only I smoked cigarettes still, this would be a good time. I would hit one right now.
Inside the...
Not in here. Go outside, just rip a bogue. I bet Thomas Friedman didn't get that kind of reception. Anyway, no disrespect to all the previous guests. I'm actually probably going to deliver a much worse speech than everyone that came before me and then everyone that will come after me, including but not limited to Rachel Maddow. Especially considering that I just found out that I'm sharing a stage in a program with Thomas Friedman and Rachel Maddow approximately 10 minutes before I got out of the car. And I walked in, and they told me, "Oh, you have a speech," and I was like, "Oh yeah, you know, like a 2-minute speech, something like that." And they were like, "You signed on for 15 minutes." And I thought to myself, well, I done did it again. This is probably like the 20th time that I've done one of these sorts of college speeches where I just come out on stage and start blurting it out, and I have no understanding of what the event is, but I'm gonna try to do my very best. Especially considering that I speak for 8 hours uninterrupted, or usually interrupted with chat. It's not gonna be too difficult, I hope. But today, obviously, we're gonna be talking about one of my favorite subjects to discuss. According to all my naysayers, including the CIJA, I believe. I don't know if they're in the room right now. Sorry, I'm sorry that you guys couldn't stop me from coming to Vancouver. But I'm gonna be talking about one of my favorite subjects, according to my haters, which is America Bad. I think a lot of Canadians have learned that lesson if they weren't aware of this concept, except for the Albertans, that America is, as a matter of fact, somewhat of a parasitic force in the global New World Order. And it was actually one of my only failed predictions of 2025 when I thought that Pierre Poilievre, am I saying that right? Poilievre? Doesn't matter. This college campus is so woke, you don't even... Anyway, one of those guys that's usually... well, I guess he wasn't really, but usually the Conservative Party from where we're standing in America always tries to be American for some weird reason. And I guess because of Donald Trump, that really backfired spectacularly last election cycle for you guys. And I thought he had a real shot, until I found out that Canadians do value dignity and sovereignty and don't want to be annexed by the United States of America. Which is a very healthy attitude to have, especially considering that I think with this last iteration of our beautiful President Donald Trump's attempts at forcibly annexing Greenland, which is a part of our NATO security cooperation. Someone should tell Donald Trump that. Especially after that, we saw many European leaders openly take to the stage at Davos and say, we'd rather be happy vassals than angry slaves. And I thought about that quite a bit. And I thought about Mark Carney's speech quite a bit. And I think that there is a failure of the previous liberal international order and consensus. And I don't think it's necessarily just Donald Trump, even though we like to talk about him as the harbinger of doom. The reality of the matter is these systems have been collapsing for quite a while. If you're in the third world, if you're in a developing nation, you already know exactly what it's like to be on the receiving end of endless amounts of bloodshed and domination. Now, of course, people of my political background have been talking about this for years. Lenin was one of those people that talked about it quite a bit. Imperialism being an absolute necessity. as a global capitalist order, as profit rates have a tendency to decline. And we've seen this endless militarism and endless domination in the global south, in countries that are in the periphery, at the behest of super profits for international capital. But unfortunately now, America's appetite for instability and all of the potential promises of said instability for international capital has put new targets in its crosshairs, as Mark Carney and many others have talked about, middle powers. We're talking about the European Union, Canada, and many other countries that are stuck between what seems like American domination and the global liberal capitalist hegemony, and potentially the rise of regional powers such as Russia that do not shy away from irredentist action and oftentimes violent military conquest, and the behemoth of manufacturing that is China. Now, as you guys already know, BRICS nations have realized that this bargain of American domination was not always going to work out well for them, and that's the reason why they have sought out alternatives and tried to create different trade agreements and maybe even currency cooperative agreements with China, specifically to, at times, leverage their relationship that they have with the United States of America. And I've been a longtime advocate in developing European sovereignty and developing sovereignty for countries like Canada, and now, I believe, is the time for these middle powers to be able to develop sovereignty once again. And I fear that if these countries don't do it, specifically Canada, I worry that American domination will at first look like the tariffs negotiations that Donald Trump has seemingly haphazardly thrown around, and then, and in the worst case scenario, complete military annexation. Now that might sound terrifying to you guys, but we have the most peaceful option ahead of us, at least for the time being, because this growth that we are seeing, this change, this nuclear option of trade, this destruction of international agreements that America was not only the safeguard of, but also the architects of, are coming to a close. What comes next is up to all of us. And by that I mean not just international capital, capital owners of different sorts, petty bourgeois, small business owners, mom and pop landlords and the like. I'm talking about you, the people, the workers, you who comprise the masses. And the quicker we develop sovereignty for ourselves, both in our workplaces, both in our universities, the quicker we organize for ourselves, the easier it will be for all of us to preserve said national sovereignty and to hopefully make it as costly as possible for America to continue dominating the world and engineering whatever kind of design they have. I saw a piece of this in action when I went to Minneapolis, because American domination has often put its crosshairs on developing nations, as I've talked about before, Iraq, Afghanistan, as recently as we saw in Venezuela, where the American government kidnapped the leader of Venezuela and his wife and is facilitating a mock trial, a sham trial at this moment. You don't have to love the Venezuelan, you don't have to love the Venezuelan government. You don't have to be a communist or a socialist to recognize what that says for the international order, which was something that many European and even Canadian partners did not recognize initially as they celebrated this action, only to receive the exact same type of lack of autonomy when Donald Trump put his crosshairs on Greenland. It shouldn't take for Trump to go after a white partner country in Europe, a NATO partner country in Europe, for people to wisen up to our grand design. And when I say our, I'm talking about the American government. But the international destabilization that we have caused came back into the home front, as imperialism often does, in the form of fascism. Just as fascism arose from the failures of liberalism only but 100 years ago, the new wave of fascism is no longer seen as a revolutionary movement, but instead a movement away from liberalism. The American Republican Party is now transitioning away from a liberal conservative party to a fascist party. And as fascists often do, they are invested in domination and cruelty for cruelty's sake. And the reason why I brought up Minneapolis, Minnesota, and my experiences there is because, as of today, Tom Homan has decided that they are retreating the ICE occupation that unfolded in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And the only reason, yes, and the only reason that happened was because the people got together, they organized, and they protected their neighbors. And while there was tremendous cruelty, kidnappings taking place on a daily basis, and community defense, and people that got shot and killed like Renee Good and Alex Peretti, rest in power, the people did not stand down under minus 35 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't know if you guys use Fahrenheit here. Minus 35-degree Fahrenheit weather. It was very cold. 60,000 people got together and did a day of direct action, somewhat of a general strike. They call it a general strike. It's not the same as the traditional general strike, but there was a day of action. Small businesses from the community also participated in this blackout. And in the aftermath of all of this participation in community defense, ICE was forced to back away. This is the most peaceful option. JFK has said, those who make peaceful revolution impossible make violent retribution inevitable. And I fear that violent retribution as the last option, which is why I'm here to talk today to you guys about what it means that the international order is falling apart. The old world is dying. A new world struggles to be born from its ashes. Now is the time for monsters. Gramsci said that. I hope I didn't destroy that quote. I was trying to paraphrase it. And on that note, I think I'm ready to go. I did 15 minutes. I don't even know how I did that. But yeah.